everyone, welcome back for another deep dive. Now today, we're going to be looking at a technical report about a new model. It's called Baichuan-Omni-1.5. And you might not think...
report exciting.
Yeah, exactly. You might not think a technical report sounds very exciting, but trust me on this one, because this report describes a model that can understand not just text, but images, audio, and even video.
It's like they took everything, like all the cool stuff that AI can do now, and crammed it all into one model. And, you know, we're really talking about a potential future here where computers can't hear, read, and speak just like we do.
Exactly. And you know what immediately comes to mind for me?
What's that?
Real-time conversations with AI. Not just, typing back and forth, but like actually talking to a computer. And it understands what you're saying.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it goes beyond just understanding.
Right.
Imagine a computer that can analyze charts and graphs, or even, help doctors make diagnoses based on medical images. I mean, the possibility is pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so creating a model that can handle all those different types of input, what they call omnimodal. That's going to be incredibly challenging, right? Is that even possible with today's technology? It's
definitely one of the biggest hurdles right now in AI. Even those big proprietary models that companies like Google and OpenAI are working on, they still have their limitations. When it comes to true omnimodal understanding, one of the biggest challenges is making sure the model can handle all these different input types without one ability like, let's say, text understanding, suffering because of the others.
So how did the researchers behind Baichuan-Omni 1.5 even begin to tackle this? I mean, where do you even start with something this complex?
Well, they started with a massive amount of data. We're talking 500 billion data points. A mix of image text pairs video with text, and even combinations of image, audio, and text all together.
Oh, wait. 500 billion?
500 billion.
That's mind-boggling. It seems like they just threw everything they could at this model.
Well, it wasn't just a random data dump, though. The way they structured the model and the way they trained it was really clever. It all comes down to the architecture of the model itself, which is actually designed in a way that allows it to process different types of data effectively.
All right, I'm intrigued. Can you break down how this model actually works? Give us a glimpse under the hood, so to speak.
Okay, think of it like this. The model has different branches, each specializing in a type of input. So there's a visual branch which processes images and videos, breaking them down into these units of information called tokens. And tokens are essentially how the model understands and represents the data, whether it's an image, a piece of text, or even audio.
So there's like a separate audio branch that does the same thing for sound?
Exactly. They developed a special audio tokenizer that breaks down sound into smaller units, kind of like syllables or phonemes, which are then converted into tokens. And this lets the model understand spoken language and even generate speech itself. Remember those real-time conversations we were talking about?
Yeah.
This is how they're making that happen.
Okay, so after mastering the visual and the textual world, how did they tackle the challenge of audio, especially considering how different audio data is from text and images?
Well, they used a really innovative approach called interleaving, where they basically wove audio and text together during the training process. This helped the model connect the dots between spoken words and their corresponding text representations. It's like teaching someone a new language by immersing them in both the spoken and written forms simultaneously.
Oh, that's a really neat way to train a model. So they taught it to see and read, then they taught it to hear and speak. Did they then try to bring it all together?
That's exactly what they did. They started incorporating those cross-modal interaction data sets, the ones with image audio text and video audio text, and they really pushed the limits by increasing the maximum input length the model could handle.
So it's not just processing short clips or snippets of text. It can actually make sense of longer videos and audio streams, which is much closer to how we experience the world.
Precisely. They wanted to create a model that could process information more holistically, just like our brains do. And this multistage training approach seems to have been key to achieving that.
I'm guessing this multi-stage training is pretty unique. I haven't heard of other models being trained quite like this.
You're right. It's a pretty novel approach.
Yeah.
And it seems to be particularly effective for omnimodal AI because it allows the model to develop a strong foundation in each modality before being challenged to integrate them. They essentially broke down a very complex problem into smaller, more manageable steps.
So they've built this amazing model and trained it in a unique way, but the real question is, does it actually work? How does it perform compared to other AI models out there?
That's the exciting part. They put it through a whole battery of tests and benchmarks, and the results are pretty impressive. Let's start with image understanding, which was the first stage of their training process. They used some standard benchmarks like Bench-EN and OCR Bench to evaluate its performance. And how did it do?
Yeah, bring on the benchmarks. How did Baichuan-Omni 1.5 do?
Well, it actually outperformed other open source models on those image understanding tasks.
Yeah.
And get this, on some of the tests, it even scored higher than a smaller version of GPT-4, which is the model developed by OpenAI.
Wow, that's impressive. Beating out other open source models is one thing, but exceeding the performance of a GPT model, that's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it really is, especially considering how dominant GPT models have been in the AI landscape. This suggests that open source development is catching up, and that could have huge implications for accessibility and innovation in the field of AI.
Yeah, absolutely. So image understanding is a check. What about video? Can Baichuan-Omni 1.5 actually make sense of moving pictures?
Well, they tested on some challenging video understanding tasks, like open-ended video question answering, using benchmarks like ActivityNet QA. And guess what? Baichuan-Omni 1.5 achieved state-of-the-art performance.
Hold on. They used a benchmark to test its ability to answer questions about videos.
That's pretty wild. It is. And to make it even more interesting, they actually used GPT-4 to judge the quality of the model's answers. Talk about a tough critic.
Oh, wow. So even GPT-4 was impressed with its video understanding abilities. Okay, so let's move on to the part I've been really curious about. Audio. How did they evaluate its ability to understand and generate speech?
They actually had two different ways of testing this.
Yeah.
First, they looked at speech to text, which is essentially what our phones do with voice assistants. But then they took it a step further and evaluated speech-to-speech capabilities, where the model not only transcribes what it hears, but also generates spoken audio in response.
So it can hold a conversation. That's insane. I mean, I knew it was designed to handle audio, but to actually hear it can generate speech. It's pretty mind-blowing.
It is pretty remarkable. And you know what they found? That Baichuan-Omni 1.5 outperformed other models, particularly in those speech-to-speech tasks. But they did note that there's still room for improvement when it comes to understanding actual audio, compared to just a transcript of what was said.
Right, that makes sense to me. Audio is so nuanced. There's tone of voice accents, background noise, all these things that can affect how we interpret speech. It's a whole other layer of complexity compared to just text.
Yeah, absolutely. Even for us humans, understanding spoken language can be tricky sometimes. So it's no surprise that AI models are still working on mastering this.
Okay. So they've evaluated its performance on images, videos, audio individually. But what about the whole omnimodal aspect? Did they test its ability to handle multiple inputs at once?
They did. They used a special benchmark called OmniBench, which was designed to evaluate how well models can process combined inputs, like an image and audio together. It's designed to be the ultimate test of true omnimodal capabilities.
Oh, wow. So how did Baichuan-Omni 1.5 fare on this ultimate test?
It actually performed quite well. But they did find, as we mentioned earlier, that all the models they tested, including Baichuan-Omni 1.5, struggled a bit when using actual audio as input, compared to just a transcript. And this highlights that while we're making progress, there's still a lot of work to be done in terms of integrating audio seamlessly with other input types.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like we're still in the early stages of developing truly omnimodal AI, but the research behind Baichuan-Omni 1.5 is definitely a step in the right direction.
I agree. It's showing us what's possible, and it's pushing the boundaries of what AI can achieve. And they didn't stop there. They also explored a really fascinating application of this model, the medical domain.
Oh, wow. Now we're talking about real-world impact. So are we talking about using this model to assist doctors with diagnosis or treatment?
Exactly. They wanted to see how Baichuan-Omni 1.5 could handle complex medical tasks. So they used benchmarks like GMAI MBench, which is specifically designed for medical AI. They even created a new data set called OpenMM Medical to push the model even further.
Okay, so did Baichuan-Omni 1.5 live up to the challenge? Can it actually be useful in a medical setting?
Well, the results were really promising. Baichuan-Omni 1.5 scored highly on both of those medical benchmarks, which suggests it has real potential to assist medical professionals. It could analyze medical images, provide insights, and maybe even help with real-time consultations.
That's amazing. We're talking about AI that could potentially save lives. This is exactly the kind of application that gets me excited about the future of AI.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most impactful areas where this type of technology could be applied. But as with any powerful tool, we need to be mindful of the ethical considerations and ensure it's used responsibly.
Of course. Safety and ethical development are paramount when we're talking about something with such potential impact. But it's hard not to be excited about what this research tells us about the future of AI.
I completely agree. Baichuan-Omni 1.5 is a significant step towards true omnimodal AI, a future where computers can perceive and interact with the world in a much more human-like way.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling to think about where this could lead. Imagine a world where AI can seamlessly integrate into our lives, understanding not just our words, but also our visual cues, our emotions expressed through voice, even anticipating our needs based on what it observed.
It would fundamentally change the way we interact with technology, moving beyond keyboards and screens to a more intuitive, almost symbiotic relationship.
It's both exhilarating and a bit daunting, isn't it? We're on the cusp of a technological revolution, and models like Baichuan-Omni 1.5 are giving us a glimpse of what's possible.
Absolutely. And while there's still a lot of work to be done, the progress we're seeing is remarkable.
Well, this has been an incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about Baichuan-Omni 1.5, from its unique architecture and training process, to its impressive performance across a wide range of tasks, and its potential to revolutionize fields like healthcare.
Yeah, it's been a fascinating journey exploring the capabilities of this model, and I'm really excited to see what the future holds for omnimodal AI.
Me too. But before we wrap up, I'd love to hear from you, our listeners. What applications of a model like this intrigue you the most? How do you envision it changing the way we interact with technology in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a question worth pondering. We're standing at the edge of a new era in AI, and the possibilities are truly limitless.
That's a wrap on today's deep dive. Thanks for joining us, and until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.
The results were really promising. Baichuan-Omni 1.5 scored highly on both of those medical benchmarks, which suggests it has real potential to assist medical professionals. It could analyze medical images, provide insights, and maybe even help with real-time consultations.
That's incredible. We're talking about AI that could potentially save lives. This is exactly the kind of application that gets me so excited about the future of AI.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most impactful areas where this type of technology could be applied. But as with any powerful tool, we need to be mindful of the ethical considerations and make sure it's used responsibly.
Right, of course. Safety and ethical development are paramount when we're talking about something with this much potential impact. But it's hard not to be excited about what this research tells us about the future of AI.
I completely agree. Baichuan-Omni 1.5 is a significant step towards true omnimodal AI, a future where computers can perceive and interact with the world in a much more human-like way.
It's mind-boggling to think about where this could lead. Imagine a world where AI can seamlessly integrate into our lives, understanding not just our words, but also our visual cues, our emotions expressed through voice, even anticipating our needs based on what it observes.
Yeah, exactly. It would fundamentally change the way we interact with technology, moving beyond keyboards and screens to a more intuitive, almost symbiotic relationship.
That's both exhilarating and a bit daunting, isn't it? We're on the cusp of a technological revolution, and models like Baichuan-Omni 1.5 are giving us a glimpse of what's possible.
Absolutely. And while there's still a lot of work to be done, the progress we're seeing is remarkable.
Well, this has been a really incredible deep dive. We've learned so much about Baichuan-Omni 1.5, from its unique architecture and training process, to its impressive performance across a wide range of tasks, and its potential to revolutionize fields like healthcare.
It really has been a fascinating journey exploring the capabilities of this model, and I'm excited to see what the future holds for omnimodal AI.
Me too. But before we wrap up, I want to hear from you, our listeners. What applications of a model like this intrigue you the most? How do you envision it changing the way we interact with technology in the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. One worth thinking about for sure.
Absolutely. All right, that's all the time we have for today. But as always, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep into the world of knowledge.